So if you are thinking about how to create spaces outside an HTML element, all right, so it could be pictures, it could be a text, or maybe boxes on the web page. You use something like margins to actually do that, all right, which is just basically an opposite of that of the padding. So a padding is a space that gets created within an element. But we're going to be taking a look at that of the CSS margins in this video, which is we're going to basically use that to create spaces outside an element. So if you have a box, it has that has a border around it, and then you want to create spaces around it. We have something like margin top, margin bottom, and then we also have something like margin left and right. Okay, so there is also another property of value that is actually called auto that we're also going to take a look at in this video. All right, so without wasting more time, I want to experiment with that using some lines of code in our computer right here. So let's go ahead and do that right now to see how that kind of works. So if you want to learn these CSS margins, you want to create a folder called CSS margins right now, which is this particular folder in here. And I do have this opened up in my Visual Studio Code. I do not actually have any files inside of it yet, but I'm going to just do that right now. So let's create an index. So just basically going to call it the index.html, and we'll have that opened up right here. And of course, if you take a look in here, you see that the folder kind of came in. So if you double click on these, you notice that we do not actually have anything yet. So what I want to do in here is to first of all put my HTML boilerplate. So if I do exclamation hit tab, it's going to generate this for me. So I'm going to just go ahead and just do CSS, not border this time, but CSS margins or margin, whatever I want to call that. So within this body tag right here, I want to create a div. So this is going to be div, and I want to give that a class. So let the class be something like a margin. We just basically call this margin or margins, anything you want to call that. And I want to close that div in here. And then within this div, I would like to have a paragraph in here. So this is going to be a p tag. All right, guys. So this is what CSS margins are actually going to do for us. They are just basically used for creating spaces outside of HTML elements. And we're going to just see as we move along. So what we want to do right here, I'm going to go ahead and then create style tags in here. So I'm going to just do style, and you can go ahead and just close that out right here. So it's going to be style, and then within this style right here, I want to reference to the class we have in here, which is actually a margin. And if I do that, we'll just do a dot. So this is going to be dots, and paste that, throw in our curly brackets. And the first thing I want to do right here is that I want to give this a border. So this is going to be border, and we're going to just basically say something like, we're going to just say 3 pixels, and it's going to be a solid, and maybe we're going to just turn the color to red, and I save the changes in here. And you notice if we go to our browser right here, and then we'll refresh, that text is going to come in, but it's not just going to come in alone, it's also going to come in with this particular border, which is red right here. All right, and we're going to just experiment with what is actually called the margins right here, which are spaces outside of an element. So we should be taking a look at this word line that we have in here as an element. The whole thing in here is an element, even the text that is inside of it, which is just basically a paragraph text. So we want to learn how to create spaces around an object, and to do that, we're going to start with that right now. So I basically want you to know that we do have what we call margin top, and we'll have margin bottom, and we'll have margin left and right, and that's just basically 4 margins, right? And if we want to like experiment with that right now, we're going to just do that. I'm going to just kind of make this a little bit smaller with the margin, which is the margin top. That means the space at the top right here. All right, so if you want to do that, if you do margin, let's say we want to attack the top, we'll do margin top, and then let's say that the space we want to give to that is actually going to be something like 100 pixels. And if you save the changes, you're going to notice that if I refresh these, that will be a much bigger space between the top right here and then the element that we do have in here. So let's experiment by refreshing. You see that it moved down a little bit, right? So that's just what it is actually called a margin top. So it creates spaces outside of the element that you do have in here, which is this red line and text right here, and then the top bar of your web page right here. All right, if that makes sense. So let's say for instance we also want to create a space maybe between the left right here and before getting to this particular element. So if I want to do that, if I do margin, and I'm going to just do left in here, and maybe this time around I just basically want to use something like, let's say it's going to be 40 pixels. I'm going to save the changes, and if you refresh, just take a look at this particular side of the screen, you see that it's going to move away from the left in here. So the same thing applies to the right. So if I copy this line, put it on the next line, I want to basically change this from left to right. So this is going to be right, save the changes, and if we refresh, you see that this is a space from the right here, right? So the same thing applies to the bottom. if you want to do that, we can also maybe copy and paste this. I think I already have that on the clipboard, and I'm going to just change this to bottom. So this is going to be bottom, and save the changes. And let's say this one is actually going to be maybe 30 pixels. I'm going to save the changes. If I refresh, you may not actually notice anything, but at it being that is another element down there. So if I copy this, paste that, and I'm going to change this to, I don't even need to even have a class in here. So I'm going to just completely get rid of this. I just basically want you to see the space that it's going to create from here down to the next line right here. All right. And let's just say this is just a new div. I'm going to just do some other stuff. So if you save the changes in here and then refresh, see that that's a kind of a came in, right? But there is a space between this right here. And I think what I'm going to do is just bring back the margin. I'm going to just, let's do class and set that to be equal to, and I'm going to just do new div right here. So this is going to be new div. I want to just basically copy this, put it down here, and I'm not going to just like do much with this. All right, so I just basically want to let you be able to see how much space is being created. All right, so we'll do this. We're going to just do margin. First of all, I'm going to just do border right here. This is going to be border, and I'm just basically going to make sure that this is going to just maybe 2 pixels, and I'm going to just do gray, and I'm going to just do maybe solid right here. All right, so save the changes, and then for refresh, you notice that we do have another div down here. All right, but then we are just trying to experiment with how much space is being created between the first element that we do have in here and then that of the one that is down here. So we are experimenting with border bottom right here. So what I'm going to do now is to just increase the border bottom right here. So we'll just make this 60, and then if we refresh, I want you to notice that more space is going to be created right here. So if I refresh, you notice that there is more space being created between these two elements right here. So that's just basically what I was actually referring to when it comes to border bottom, right? All right, so the next thing I want to do right here is to show you how you can use shorthand properties to be able to write all of these things that we do have in here. So what I want to do right here, I'm not going to delete this just yet. I'm going to just basically go ahead and then comment this out. And remember that I've already commented out the margins that we do have in here. So if we save the changes and then we'll refresh, it's going to fall back to the original, right? That's cool. So what I want to do right here, if we want to make use of a shorthand, what we should do margin right here. And instead of doing something like margin tab or margin left or those things, we're not going to just basically do that. We're going to just stick at margin right here. And then we can just specify the values we want in here. Let's say, for instance, we're going to use 3 values right here. And if we're making use of 3 values, I'm going to just basically pick this for the margin top and then paste that right here. Then for the margin left and right, we are basically using 4 to here, right? So I want to copy this, then put that right here. And then for the margin bottom right here, it's actually 60. So if I copy this and then put that right here. So what this simply means is we do have a margin that's going to just basically be 100% from the top. And this one right here is going to represent left and right. And then this one is actually going to represent the bottom. So if we save the changes right here and then refresh this page, you see that it goes back to the original thing that we used to have. All right, so capture this. This is just for the tab, and then this is for the right and left, and then this is just basically for the bottom. All right, so that is it. So there is also another way. So I want to like copy and paste this down here, and what I basically want to do right here is I want to use 2 values. So if I don't want to use 3 values, I can actually use 2 values. If I use 2 values right here, what it's just basically going to mean is that we should be able to like have top and bottom and then left and right. So if I take away this, and now we have 2 values right here, what this means is that this is going to be top and bottom, and this one is actually going to be left and right. So let's see how that works out. If I save the changes and I refresh in here, you notice that something kind of happened, right? So it's just basically going to be 100% from the top, and not really percent, but in pixels, and then also 100 pixels from the bottom, right? And then we'll have 40 for the left and right. And if you want to like find out more, you can increase this. I'm going to just make this 60, save the changes. Notice there will be a space between here and here. All right, hope you're seeing my mouse. Let's refresh. You see that the spaces are kind of increased right here. All right, so the next one I want to do is, if you want to use a single value, you can actually do that. All right, if you want to use a single value, it's just simply going to mean, if I copy this right here and I put it on the next line, and now I want to basically use maybe 100 like this. And what this means is that this is just basically going to start from the top right here. It will move clockwise direction. So this is going to be top, right, bottom, and then left. All right, so you're having the same value all around. That's just basically what this means. So if I refresh the page right here, you're going to notice that it's going to increase these by left and right and also by top and bottom right here, right? So just basically the same amount of space. So I want to save the changes first of all. And then if I refresh, you see that something it kind of happens. So the space between the top right here before getting to this element is 100 pixels, and same thing applies to the bottom right here before getting to another element, or the next element is 100, and the same thing applies to the left and that of the right here. So that's just basically what it is. So if you are in a situation where you want to use the same margins, you can actually do that, guys. So that is it. And so the next thing I want to basically experiment with right now is in a situation where I want to cut this away from here and I put it on this particular place. So in a situation where there is a value that is actually called a auto, right? So I want to copy and paste that on this particular line, and I want to change the value right here. So instead of using auto right here, I'm using a maybe 100% to any value right here. I want to use auto, and auto means automatically adjust to a certain width and height, all right? And what I want to do first of all is with this particular alpha that we have in here, is basically most of the time used to like center an element, all right? But the way that it is right now, if I do go ahead and then kind of refresh this page, we need to save the changes in here first of all, and then refresh this web page right here. You see that it goes back to the original space right here, and of course it's actually centered but not all that so centered. So I want you to like notice this, and if you want to notice that, you need to make sure that you give this a width. This particular element here, you want to give it a width first of all, and to do that I'm going to just do, maybe this is going to be something like, let's say 600 pixel first of all as the width of that particular element in there. And if I save the changes right here, of course the width is actually going to reduce, but then it's going to push this particular element right here to the center of the web page with the help of this right here. And let's refresh in here. I think I basically need to reduce the width a little bit in here. This is going to be, let's say 400. Save the changes, and you see that that's a kind of a works, right? So now we do have the same spaces on the left and the same space on the right here, even top and bottom right here. But then it was able to like help us center this whole box that we have in here, right? So it automatically center the whole box, and this is actually crucial in case you are working with an element that maybe you want to create something like boxes in a web page, and like have boxes that is basically going to have the same size, and also going to have, maybe you want to place them horizontally beside each other. To make use of something of this nature, Margin Auto is actually going to help you center that such an element to the web page. All right. So, and of course, if you maybe still want to create a space down here, you can either use something like a line break in here. Maybe once you get down here, do something like a line break, and if you refresh it here, you're going to like have a space in here. Or I think that is a situation where you can also use, so if I go back in here and do something like margin, maybe this time around it's going to be tapped, and we can just do maybe 20 pixels right here. I believe this is just basically going to work. So if I refresh, that doesn't seem like it worked, but it should just basically kind of a work. So this is margin top, and then we do have 20 pixels right here. And for refreshing here, I think I capture where that is. You may not be able to like use such a margin anymore, since you have already used the margin in here. So you can take the margin and then go to the next element and just kind of put that right there. So if I use this with the new div that we do have, it's going to create a space from the top. All right. So we do have a space right here. See that there is no changes in here. And of course, if we just like maybe return these, I don't know, I think I paused the video before coming back right now to experiment. If we do this way, and I will refresh it, so you're going to notice that this is going to just kind of a collapse together. All right, but the right place to just kind of have this is just basically for the next element, the element that is just beneath that. All right, so you have to put it on the next element down there, and then for refresh, you see that it creates the space right here. So I think I'm just basically going to kind of stop right here, and maybe in the next one we're going to take a look at margins. All right, so margins are spaces that are within an element. For instance, we'll just experiment with this right here. We'll just do padding, and if we do like, let's say 3 pixels right here, you're going to notice something, that the elements right here or the text right here is going to have some spaces. It's not going to just be very close to the edges right here. All right, you see that there are just little spaces right here. So I want to increase this to maybe something like 9 pixels, so you can notice that a little bit more. You see what I mean? So we're going to experiment with that in the next video that we are going to basically work on, but this is just what it takes to like be able to work on that of the margins. All right. So in CSS, so I want to take this away because this is not part of what we need to do on this video. Save the changes right here, refresh it here. It should go back right here. So what I want to do is in the next video, we're going to just do something a little bit different, which is just basically going to be that of the padding. And an assignment that I basically want to give you right now is for you to work with what is it called, the margin inherit. All right. So try to work on margin inherit. You can actually a particular element can inherit margin from its parent element. All right. So that's just that. So I'll see you guys in the next one, guys. And if you like the video, do not forget to give the video a thumbs up. And if you have any questions, you can go ahead and ask that in the comment section below. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye for now, guys. Yeah.